Good morning. Hey there. How you doing? A couple of people live. Do let me know where you are in the world or in the UK as you're joining. I'm I'm sure you know where I am. I'm in the UK. I'm in Hampshire, which is in the south, not too far from the sea. I'd like to be closer. So we are here for week 2 of the Yarn Declutter. This is our third live video. Yay! Um, and we're talking this week about the mindset of decluttering. If you've watched any of Marie Kondo's stuff, then that will be mentioned as well. But there's other stuff going on when you're thinking about what you've been knitting. So, and what yarn you've got left. Yes, which yarn is in your stash. Do let me know where you are, whether you're signed up, and we're going to have a look at the worksheet from this week as well. This one is basically about getting it all out. Good morning, Jo. You're here. Hi, Kaz. She's knitting dishcloths and a shawl. Fabulous. Very, very chill. You're in Aston, Sheffield. Oh, cool, cool. Some of Nick's family is in Sheffield. Great. So yeah, this week we're talking about. Oh, thank you, Jo. I'm getting distracted from the comments. Yes, thanks. This is his week anniversary of having a new job. So far, so good. And he's working at a coffee place, not making coffees, but testing all the coffees before they go into vending machines. He loves working in labs. That's been he's been doing that for the last 25 years. So feels like his dream job. In his last job, he was testing flavors and things. So he loves coffee as well. So pretty good, pretty good. So yeah, let's get back to yarn. I tell you what can also depend on what yarn you've got is the opportunities you have to get out and buy it. Because if you only go to a yarn store once every 6 months and then you completely splash on a load of yarn, there might be decisions you made when you were there that probably weren't very good decisions. It was just, I'm here, I've got to get yarn because otherwise I won't have anything to knit with. And then it all ends up in your stash. And do you ever knit with it? So it's, yeah, it can be tough thinking about all of the yarn that you've got. And do you even remember buying it? I mean, how old is some of that? Just think about it. So Jo says, how do you get that job? I could use some caffeine. Yeah. Yeah, it takes experience, it takes qualifications as well. Nick's been working in a lab for a very long time. Yes. Okay. So let's talk about the mindset, and then we'll talk about the tasks for the week. You're going to realize this week that you have some attachments to the yarn that you've got in your stash. That's why it's in your stash, and that's why you haven't knitted with it, a majority of it probably yet. And if you're just starting out, kind of get used to thinking this. If you haven't got much in your stash yet because you've only just started knitting, realize that you can get attached to yarn. Like, I'm sure you can get attached to things from other hobbies. Like, if you go climbing, how many ropes have you got? And how many clips have you got? And then you go and think, oh, that's a better one, I'll get that. But you still have got the old one that isn't quite so good because you bought it when you first started climbing. You know, but the bizarre things like that are actually part of the way the human psyche works. Hoarding, because it might be useful, it's just part of the human psyche. So the first thing, let's talk about favorites. Favorites. Why might yarn be a favorite? Are you attached to what you knitted with the yarn, and it's what you've got left over that feels like a favorite? Perhaps it's because you remember sentimentally where you were when you bought it, when you knitted with it, what you knitted with it. All of those things could mean that it's a favorite because it's a favourite when you made a particular thing with it, but is it a favourite now? And now you're thinking, actually, I don't know what I would knit with it other than the thing I knitted with it all those years ago. So just think about that. Have you got favourites in your yarn stash and you got no idea what to make with them that somebody else would grab hold of and say, I'm definitely going to knit with that? So think about it. What is it in your yarn stash that feels like a favourite, but you can't really decide why? The other thing that might be holding you there, and I've already used this word, is sentimentality. Where were you when you bought the yarn? Were you on an amazing holiday? Were you, like I just said, this amazing yarn store that you only get to visit once every 6 months? And you feel sentimental because, oh, well, I was there when I bought it and I love that yarn shop, so I have to knit with it and I have to keep it until I knit with it. It could be there for decades. um, yeah, maybe you bought the yarn on holiday, but what is it that you bought it for? Are you going to sit there and say, it's a favourite ball of yarn because I knitted with it, but sorry, because I bought it on holiday. But basically, it's just yarn gazing. That's all it is. That's all it is. The yarn is sitting there so you can gaze at it, not knit with it, or indeed crochet with it, or weave with it, or anything else with it. So yarn gazing, yeah, it happens. So just let's move through that. Let's say I can get past this. Sentimentality with yarn isn't really a big help. And think about other things that you're sentimental with, but that you're able to let go of. Is it a smartphone wallpaper? I've had the same wallpaper when I would open up my lock page, what's it called, screen, since last summer. And I was sentimental to it because it's kind of the first thing I had on it when I got the iPhone. So it doesn't really work for me anymore. I need it. I mean, I like it when I see it when I open the iPhone every morning, but I could probably do with something else, and it might help me even more when I open it. So what's the first thing you do in the morning? Don't open your iPhone and look at Instagram. Go and have your breakfast, or go and do some yoga. Just think about it in that way too. You're sentimental because it's attached to something else. But think about that. Perhaps you're sentimental because it's a gift. Was it a gift from someone else? And you said, please get me this yarn. I want to knit this thing with it. I'm really desperate for it. Someone gifted it to you. And now you think, oh, they were so nice to give it to me. And I never knitted what it was intended for. So I feel sentimental because it was given to me by them. Or sentimental because they gave you something, gave you the yarn that they didn't need to knit with, but they thought you'd love it because they were so kind to give it to you. You feel sentimental towards it. It's a difficult thing, yarn. It is. Let's have a look at some of your comments. Hi, Petra. Crocheter from Kentucky and so interested in this subject. It is an interesting thing. That yarn that's sitting there, why is it sitting there? Why is it not getting knitted? Or crocheted, indeed. And why is that yarn sat there in the first place and growing? Surely you're knitting and crocheting at the same time as your yarn stash is growing. That doesn't make any sense, does it? Does not make any sense. Joe says, holding on to it because it feels like it will keep Nan's memory going to knit it up and see it used. Well, yes, in so many ways, that's so true. A son of Nan yarn is nasty. And in that respect, feel free to keep what feels good and knit with what feels good. My mum kept some of my grandma's knits because she knitted so much for us when we were children. It was too much. It really was. So she kept it in a drawer, and the next generation's got it. So my grandmother's knits are now at my niece's, and my cousin's children's are wearing it as well. So in that respect, it makes sense. It is reaching the next generations. So you can feel that sentimental attachment. There's nothing wrong with it. But let it be used and let their journey continue. They bought the yarn in the first place. Let that go towards where it was intended. and give away the stuff that isn't quite your taste. That's fine. You've still got the stuff that you do like to knit with, and you do want to see used well. Cara, hi Cara. I've just got some eggs from you. Funny sending me some eggs, isn't it? Why is that? It looks really tasty. I was thinking I should sit here and eat some chocolate Easter eggs with my tea, but no, I mustn't. Cara says, I can't let go of anything. I get attached to things easily, especially if it has to do with my children when they were young. Yes. Those memories are very sentimental, yeah. And the interesting thing is, we may well talk about this in months ahead of time, but are there knits that you've created? Are there things that children wear that you can then sew up into different items? For example, I've seen beautiful jumpers cut up and made into Christmas decorations. So you cut circles out of them, you sew around them, probably you sew around them first, and then you cut them out, stuff them, and they're baubles. Christmas trees, if it's green, that sort of thing. And then the memory will go on for years and years and years. So just think, what could be the next step? Could be the upcycle step for those things that you've got that belong to your children all those years ago, but then, it just moves them forward, moves those knits, moves those yarns and those knits forward. Joe says, I've knit some nails to put buttons on for my sister's future babies. There you go. So, tip for yarn you want to use up for sentimental reasons, use stash botting products like crocheting basket holding 4 or more threads. Yes, yes, so definitely knit with stuff. If you want to keep it, then make stuff that won't run out of won't run out of time. It won't be outsized. If you wear something, it won't be fashionable anymore. If you wear something or your children wear something, they'll grow out of it. You can definitely knit stuff with it, such as squares for blankets. If it's sentimental and you've got so many odd balls left, it is a good idea to knit up stuff that could last for decades. My mum, when she was first married, made crocheted blankets with odd balls of yarn and crocheted cushion covers. I mean, in that era, they were fashionable. It was the 70s. But we were still using them through the 80s and 90s. Why not? And then she kind of got, oh, I can't use these anymore. They're so out of date, and started making patchwork covers instead. So just think about how you could use that yarn. If it is sentimental and you want to keep it, use it for things that don't necessarily run out of size. For example, Christmas decorations. You could so definitely make stuff like that with Christmas, with yarn that you've got that's sentimental, and then it will last for years, and your children will go, oh, I remember the jumper you made with that wool. That kind of thing will make your yarn stash slowly disappear. Yes, and we'll talk about this later on in the challenge, that you can make up project bags for yourself. I sell knitting kits. It's a great way to know the yarn is there, the pattern is there, the needles are there, everything's ready for you to start knitting. And you haven't got to get all fluffy and worried and go searching for stuff and matching everything together. So you could do the matching and create your own knitting kits. With this challenge, it could be a big help for you. Petra, kind of like a memory quilt. Exactly, yeah. Use bits of your items and make one item that contain the memories. Yes. The one thing I've seen people in lockdown do is mood blankets, where you use a different color for your different moods throughout the last year. And it's helped people get through, realize, actually, I've had some good days. It hasn't all been so grey and dull and tough. Some days it's been helpful, and I've actually really enjoyed days in this lockdown as well, because there have been times which have actually felt like really times for learning lessons, and that kind of knit could really help too. And memory quilts, and you can even create some kind of leaflet or document that goes with it, where all the yarns came from, how you knitted with them before, what the original piece looked like if you've been unraveling it, that kind of thing. So that's the sentimental mindset. The other thing, and this will probably pluck a few strings, guilt. The mindset of guilt. Ah, not being able to say no when yarn is offered to you. Yarn is offered to you. Thanks for remembering that I'm a knitter, but I don't need this at the moment. Okay, say it after me. Thank you so much for remembering I'm a knitter. I actually don't need any more yarn at the moment. And again, thanks so much for remembering that I'm a knitter, but I don't actually need any more yarn at the moment. I'm sure there are more people who might use it. Thanks so much for remembering that I'm a knitter. I don't actually need any more yarn at the moment. There you go. It's not that difficult. If people offer you yarn, then just sit there and recognize that possibly you don't need any more. Because then that guilt is there. Oh no, I've taken it, and actually I'm not going to knit with it. Oh, you feel guilty possibly that you started knitting something. You got so far, and then you said, "Oh, actually, I don't want to knit this." And what did you spend on that yarn? You got 6 or 7 balls left that you were going to knit with, but you didn't knit with. Ah, just think. So many people will also have buyer's remorse. This is a thing. Buyer's remorse. When you buy something and you think afterwards, oh, I didn't actually mean to do it. That's a shame. And I can't take it back. Because if I do take it back, then they'll think I'm an idiot for buying it in the first place. What do? It's guilt. And you just got to kind of let go of that. You say, okay, that voice inside my head that's telling me that I'm an idiot, stop it. That's not allowed. No more. Okay? The guilt that you might feel doesn't have to be real. It can be just, okay, let's get on with this. Next step. Feel that guilt for 3 minutes and then move past it. You can give it back. You can say, I bought it, I didn't mean to, or I bought it, but it doesn't work with what I intended it for. Can I give you 6 balls left? Because I only started knitting with the 7th. There you go. And yeah, that's fine. We can swap it or we can refund you. Not a problem. Yeah? Does that sound good? And also remember that if this has been sitting in your yarn stash and you felt that guilt for years, you can remember that it's been there for years. And that money is no longer in your present. It's in your past. The money that you spent on that yarn all those years ago, it's not going to affect your budgeting now. It's just sat there. It's there. It's that. Ta-da! Ta-da! Just think, that's it. I spent it all those years ago. It's irrelevant now. It's in my past and not in my present, and it's certainly nothing to do with my future. Maybe you could sell it. Just think all those places online where you can sell stuff. If you're in the US, Craigslist is a big thing. If you're in the UK, then we mainly use eBay. There's also the Ravelry forums. I know where a lot of people sell stuff. I'm not using Ravelry at the moment. And I never use the Ravelry forums. It's too much for me. I can't stand it. Even go on Facebook and say, does anyone want this yarn in the marketplace? You can bet there might be people there. It's tough currently to go out and give stuff to charity shops. They're just not open and they're not accepting stuff, certainly in the UK. So keep it if you want. This bag is definitely for the charity shop. If you've got that strength inside you to say, that is not for me to knit with. It is going to go to someone else when it goes to someone else. And there are also charity bins out there still collecting stuff. I don't know about you, but in the UK, I've had quite a few bags coming through my letterbox saying, we're collecting on Friday. Anything that you can give us will really be appreciated. And then you just put it out by your front door on a certain day of the week. You can bet they'll take yarn. Just double check or even ring them up and say, would you like yarn? There you go. It's organised. And that's out of your house. It's out of your present out of your future, and you can say, "That's it. That's fine. No more." So, why do you need to feel that guilt? It probably felt right when you bought it, and it's just not perfect, and it's not exactly what you need right now. So, yeah, the knitter's guilt, the yarn purchasing guilt is a big thing. It's tough to cope with because that guilt can hang around and hang around and hang around, especially if there are people making fun of you. Oh, you buy a lot of yarn, don't you? You never knit with it. And if that is something that you see and you feel, then it can be tough. So also remember that guilt. Thank you so much for remembering that I'm a knitter. I don't actually need any more yarn now. I'm sure someone else will make great use of it. Thank you so much for remembering that I'm a knitter. I don't actually need more yarn at the moment. I'm sure someone else will make good use of it. It's so kind, it's so full of gratitude, and you're offering them an alternative option. So, yeah. Don't say, oh, yeah, I'll have it. When you know you don't need any more. Just let that yarn go on its journey and find a new path for itself. I know, you know, there are lots of paths. There are lots of knitters out there who will make good use of it. Okay. Folksing says, it's a good mantra. Maybe refer to good cause knitters. I use more than 50 skeins a year for hats, etc. for the homeless. Yes, exactly. There are so many knitters out there who knit for charity, and there are so many knitters out there who will use yarns themselves. They will, there's a, what's the big knitting charity in the UK? I can't remember, but every month they give, if I can remember, I know I follow them on Instagram. They have a plan every month of what they need and what they don't need. So one month they may be desperate for premature baby hats, and another month they say we got too many, we don't need any more now. Another month they might say we need blankets for refugees. You know, so they will take what they need and ask you to stop knitting what they don't need, or save what you've knitted for a month when they need it. So that kind of thing can really, really be helpful. And they're more than willing also to take, say, blanket squares and have someone else sew them up, because there are different talents out there and they will work together. Also willing to accept yarn, and then they send it out to different charities and different groups who knit for them. So just be aware that if you are stuck about where to send your yarn, then there are certainly people out there who will knit for charity, or charities who will take your yarn so it can be knitted up for specific reasons. So, yeah. So the other thing, this last mindset tip I have for you when you're decluttering, and this is a scary one, and it is the biggest problem that hoarders have. Um, and I was taught this as a young child. Hang on a minute, we need it in case we need it. And this is known as scarcity mindset. It's thinking, oh, what if we don't have enough? That means we have to keep it even now in case. And keeping it in case it's useful, or keeping it in case you need it, is actually stopping the flow of abundance. It's something you kind of have to tune into and get used to. If you don't spend money, this is the easiest way to think about it. If you don't spend money, then there's no way it can come back to you. Does that make sense? If you don't spend money, there's no way it can come back to you, because that money isn't moving then. Just think, if everyone in the UK stopped spending money for 5 days, then the banks would say, hang on a minute, we haven't got any money to give back to you because you're not spending it. And the shops would say, we haven't got any money to give back to you, and we can't pay who's working for us. And then they can't buy stuff. And then it all stops. The whole economy stops because no one's spending money. It's the same thing with yarn. That's, it's the scarcity mindset. If I keep it, then I'll have it in case I need it. But if you knit with it and you give or you use what you've knitted, then it's a lot easier for you to then see that flow in and out, and in and knitting and out and being used, and in and knitting and out and being used. It's just that nurturing of that cycle instead of it being hoarded and stuck. It's really static if you're hoarding stuff, but it needs to flow. So let that flow continue. And scarcity can really, really get people stuck in the hoarding mentality. All crafters can feel that. Oh, but I need to keep that paper because I'll probably use some of it one day. And then one day a year, maybe when you're making your Christmas cards, you'll say, oh, hang on a second, I'll just cut a third of that piece of paper off and leave all the 200 other sheets. But I just need that little piece to make my Christmas cards look absolutely perfect. Why are you keeping it all? You could probably have done without it. And someone else would have grabbed hold of it and said, I'm going to use all of it today. And then suddenly you go, I tell you what, you give me the paper and I'll give you the yarn that I'm not using, and it's getting used and you're enjoying it. Wow. That abundance just continues and you feel the joy and the gratitude, and then it continues. So it can be tough to see that scarcity and why the hoarding can be a problem. But if you kind of get your mind twisted into that and go, I get it now, then it makes a lot more sense. So perhaps this is something that you always do. Do you need 10 balls of yarn for a project? But you go, you know what? I'll get 12, just in case I need one more. And then just in case I need one more, I've got the other one instead as well, just in case. So you've got those 2 extra balls of yarn and you've knitted your cardigan. You go, oh, I'll put those in stash just in case I need to mend this or repair an elbow when it's worn through. And then you hardly ever wear that cardigan anyway, so it's never going to get worn. But you've still got those 2 balls of yarn sat there. And they're creating that stash because every other thing that you knit, you get an extra 1 or 2 balls of yarn as well. You're driving everyone mad. And your husband or your partner or your sister, whenever they see that stash of yarn, they go, didn't you make a cardigan with that you hardly ever wore? Why have you still got the rest of that yarn? Well, because I thought it might be useful. That's the scarcity mindset, thinking you'll never be able to find it again. It would be dreadful if I wear that cardigan so much and then I have a different colour elbow patch. No, can't do that. So just think, what would it be like if you only buy enough yarn for that item that you're knitting? And if you have too many balls left afterwards, you go, oh, well, in that case, let me, like folks says, how about I knit a couple of hats for the homeless? Or how about I give it to someone who's knitting squares for a blanket? You've got leftover yarn, you don't keep it. You actually let that flow continue. Let someone else use it. Or indeed, you use it yourself. You say, I've knitted a cardigan. I'm going to make a scarf to go with it. It'll be perfect. And then I'll match. Or pair of socks, whatever you like. Just think, wouldn't that be amazing? Using the yarn that you've got. Whoa. Mind blown emoji. Oh dear. So Petra says, in the USA, nursing homes and assisted living places love yarns because some residents crochet. Yeah, it is. It's so many places out there will accept yarns more than you might think because it's so useful to them. And church ministries knit and crochet as well. Yeah, it's like the old-fashioned quilting bees. That's what they used to be called, but they're knitting bees. And folks says, thank you for explaining scarcity. I've never had stash problems in 30 years until now. You understand why now? Yeah, it can just happen suddenly as well. If it could, you probably won't recognize what the trigger was. That there probably will be something or someone you come in touch with who's just suggested that to you, and you go, that's a good idea. Yeah, I'll get more in case I need it. And suddenly it becomes a habit, and then it just piles up and piles up and piles up. So it can be a big thing that all of a sudden it's there, filling up a room or a cupboard beyond your recognition, and it's something that you can then get a handle on. So this week, you're going to go through your yarn. This week, I'm going to do a Marie Kondo on you. And I know some people don't like this, but we've talked about all the mindsets, all the attachments you have to that yarn. I want you to give yourself thinking time. Marie Kondo says, go and do the kitchen utensils, go and sort them out first. Don't even think about your wedding dress or the photos that you had at your daughter's christening. Think about all the stuff that is there, and you need to think about it, and you need to get that mindset just really organized. Recognize when those mindset attachments come up. Are there favorites there that you need to really kind of go, that's okay. I've used those favorites. I want to use them again. Do I need so many of those favorites? And actually, am I suddenly aware that I've given all of the yarn that I've got the favorites title? That's daft, because not everything you've got can be a favorite. And then you realize, oh, that makes more sense. They're all favorites, but these three are actually my real favorites. You could give away the colors that you don't like. You can give away so many different things that you don't like when you've been attaching them to a favorite title when they're actually not favorites. Just think about that. Think about the sentimentality. You've got the item that you finished knitting. You're going to do a specific thing with specific items or specific yarns that you've kept because you're sentimentally attached to them. But then other sentimental yarns, you go, actually, I've knitted enough with these in my lifetime. I've got other things that remind me of the holiday when I bought this yarn. You can just remove some of those sentimental yarns as well. But give yourself time. That's why this week I'm saying, if you can, lay out your yarn, sort it into weights, brands, colours, however it is that you want to separate them, as we discussed last week. And then recognise where all those attachments are. The guilt about being given all of this stuff and then not using it, about buying all this stuff in your past and then not using it. And then the scarcity factor. Have you got so many odd balls because you buy extra? Have you got so many odd balls because of some bizarre system that you've said, well, I probably will need to knit a scarf, so I'll have to get one of those balls of yarn while I'm buying the stuff for my cardigan, and then you've never used it. It's this weird scarcity thing. I haven't got any scarf yarn at the moment, so I better put one in my stash in case I need it. Why? And recognise that also when you go to yarn stores in the future. Favourites, sentimentality, guilt, scarcity. Are those things coming up? They can be really, really helpful as you move on, as you become a yarn stash hero. You'll have other knitters going around, how have you got so little stash? And you knit with it as well. I'm just a bright light in the knitting world. You wouldn't understand it. But you can teach all of this as well and just help other people get the flow of knitting yarn moving again. And yeah, you can swap with people. I bet you got knitters around you going, oh, I wish I had that yarn. I wish I had more of that yarn. I know you want to make that stripy cardigan. I've got some in the other colour. Here you go. And before you know it, you'll have yarn coming to you and they'll have yarn coming to them. And it'll all be beautiful. So mindset, just think about that. As you're going through your yarn, as you're sorting your yarn, give yourself some time. If you can, keep it all laid out on a dining table. You know, who knows, you might all eat in the kitchen, so you don't need the dining table or use it for anything. Maybe on a spare room bed, if you close the door and it can all just be there. Just let it sit and come back to it, think about it. Maybe if you want to go that deep, you could even journal about it. I bought this yarn and I'm so guilty about it. Just let it happen, let it be there. Let those feelings come to the surface. Okay, so we're talking about, again, we're going to return to the first week's list and copy what you wrote about your favourite yarn weights. Have you got yarn in your stash that you're keeping because of some of those mindset reasons? And you know, if you return to those lists that you made in the first week, I'm never going to knit with that, am I? It's the wrong weight. I never knit with that weight yarn. And all of a sudden, ping, it all makes sense. Oh dear. Oh, brilliant. So, yes, this is the task for the week. And if you're not signed up to the Yarn Declutter, then you will get this Saturday's link, this Saturday's worksheet, this Saturday's task, next Saturday. If you'd like to see the past tasks, then all the worksheets and the videos without ads are available over in the Knit with Hannah Academy. That's academy.knitwithhannah.co.uk. That's over there. You can easily find the Yarn Declutter. It's right there on the homepage. And all I'm asking is £5 to get everything that you need. And you'll get some bonus worksheets in there as well. So that's all there for you. And I will be back on Friday. Now, let me help you understand what's happened in the last week. Last week, I released my usual Tuesday video at 9:30 in the morning. Yay! And then I had this live, and YouTube went, oh, that's funny. 2 videos in 1 week on 1 day within about 3 hours, even within about 2 hours. Okay, now this is bizarre. We can't put everything in people's notifications. We can't share everything with people. Tell you what, we'll share the most recent one and, just forget that one that Hannah shared at 9:30. So I've got the statistics and the analytics all sat behind my YouTube creators channel. And I can easily tell that YouTube hardly shared my 9:30 video with anybody last week. The numbers that they shared the live one with and the pre-recorded one with were actually quite astounding. Why? So I had a lot to say last week in the 9:30 video, and hardly anyone saw it. So it's quite heartbreaking. So I'm going to share my pre-recorded video on Friday for the next 3 weeks. So week 2 of the Yarn Declutter will be on a Tuesday, the live will be on a Tuesday, and then you'll have my pre-recorded this Friday. Week 3, and then will be on a Tuesday, and then the pre-recorded will be on a Friday. Week 4 will be on a live on a Tuesday, and then the pre-recorded will be on the Friday as well. So there you go. Just for the end of April, while we're doing the Yarn Declutter, because last week it was kind of a disaster. And if you want to see that, it was the de-pilling video. So go and check out the channel. And let me just show you what I mean by that. We were talking about de-pilling your jumpers. Someone asked me actually in the comments in the community threads, why do I suggest de-pilling before washing? So if you de-pill after you've washed, the bubbles, the pills on your jumpers and cardigans, anything wool that you decide to wash will have just slightly felted together. Obviously, felting happens when you use a high temperature and a high, what's the word? Spin, aggravation. Can't think what the word is. So felting happens and all the fibers stick together. So the more washing and spinning you do, even if it's low temperatures and low spin, the more those fibers are going to stick together. So if you remove the pills before you wash, then those pills won't get involved in the felting process. So pill, de-pill, then wash. De-pill, then wash. Yeah, friction. I can't think what the word is. There's a specific word about washing stuff. It is friction. Yeah, that's very basically what it is. It's the way the fibers get aggravated, they get stuck together. So that's the thing. De-pill, then wash. De-pill, then wash. And it will happen in a much kinder way for your jumpers, and you won't have such trouble de-pilling as well. So go and watch that video. And like one of the comments said, one of the people who did see it, agitation. Yes, Leslie. Yes. That's the word. That's the word that they use in washing machine lingo. Go and watch that video. Yes, one of the comments, one of the people who actually saw it, one of the comments was, I didn't realize I could do this with stuff I had around the house. Yes, you can. Go and watch that video. Find out about these, which we actually do have in the shop. This is motorized and makes your life a lot easier. But you can still do this with tools that you have around the house without having to buy anything new. So go and have a look at that video, all about de-pilling. And that was the video that kind of got lost last week. Oh dear, there you go. I did want to share one other thing, and please ask me any questions you want to in the comments. Do you like my new video? I've got a new webcam, fancy webcam. I've got my alabaster skin and fancy, beautiful, high pixels. So I hope you're enjoying that. I think it's 4K. So what I'm hoping is that it will be future-proof quite a long time. I've been using the webcam actually on the computer for so long, I thought it's about time I upgraded, and now I can get used to it. Dear, while we're doing the yarn declutter, it seems to be working quite well. So yes, if you've got no questions specific to this mindset, if you're all sitting there freaking out going, oh no, my mindset needs a lot of work, then go away and just rest. You're not the only one who thinks like this. Believe me. So many knitters out there will be guilty, will feel sentimentality, will feel favoritism towards yarn. And all this scarcity mindset as well will be out there with knitters and yarn addicts. So just that's the thing, isn't it? Yarn addicts, it's out there. People say it constantly. I'm a yarn addict. Are you a yarn addict? Yeah, I'm a yarn addict. Can't go past a shop which has got yarn in it without buying some yarn. Just recognize that you're not alone, but let's get that scarcity moving, all of that abundance, all of that flow moving. So the scarcity kind of disappears, dissipates, is gone. There it is. The yarn is flowing, be that with finished items or with yarn just going to someone who will use it. Let that yarn flow. Hi there, Janie. Nice to see you. You can watch the replay and do leave any comments, obviously. I like the style and that you're motivational and understand the psychology. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, we all have different attachments to yarn, attachments to knitting. And this is why I want to leave works in progress to the end of the challenge. We can talk about works in progress at the end of the challenge. Just like Marie Kondo would say, let's do stuff that's easy first. Let's do the kitchen utensils and then we do the wedding dress right at the end. You know, there's a reason. So you get used to all of these ideas. You get used to saying no. You get used to saying this doesn't need to be in my life anymore. You can keep your wedding dress, I don't mind. But, you know, we'll get used to those things. And we'll get used to making decisions, get used to saying no, get used to letting go. That's the whole idea. And that's why we're taking longer as well. Doing this all in a weekend could be quite scary and quite emotional. So let's just move through it gently. And if you would like to, like I suggest on this, we're going to make decisions next week. I'm going to help you make decisions next week. This week is about sorting it out and recognizing where you might have those attachments. Come back and watch this. This will be here for replay. And if you want to watch it without any ads, then you can watch the YouTube sticks ads in whether I like it or not. If you want to watch it without ads, I download it and put it over in the Academy. So it's Academy. I've left the link right at the top here, and it's in the description when you watch the replay. academy.knitwithhannah.co.uk, and the yarn declutter is right there on the front page. It's just £5 to have access. You can have everything without ads, all of the worksheets and the tasks. And guess what? I'm going to put some bonus tasks in there as well. Okay, right. We're going to say goodbye. I'm going to say goodbye. Janie's got one more comment. For decades, every time I go past woolen yarn sellers, I just get that cozy, I wish feeling, together with low self-worth. Beautiful yarns are for other people. Oh, yes, that's a really interesting one. I tell you what, let's discuss that in the membership, and we could probably discuss that next week as well. Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, that is a tough one. I used to think that, especially as beautiful yarns seem to cost more money. But then beautiful yarns I enjoy knitting with so much more. So I really embrace them and feel joy while I'm knitting. All of those one stitch at a time knits are so well worth it with beautiful yarns. Oh, definitely. Okay. Right, I will see you all. Like I said, the weekly video will be up on Friday, the pre-recorded one. And we're talking yarn swatches, which would really help with this yarn declutter. For 3 weeks, we're talking yarn swatches. It could have been one video, but there's so much, it would end up being 45 minutes long. So I've split it up. We're talking yarn swatches over 3 weeks. And this will help, I hope, with the yarn declutter. And if you've got a ton of yarn all in one's type, you just do a yarn swatch and go, yes, yes, that's for me. I'm going to knit with it. And then you're going to go, oh no, I never want to knit with this again. And then you've got 12 ball of yarn. You can just hand to someone else and they can knit with it and enjoy it. There you go. They are for you and me and everyone, Jo. Absolutely. Those beautiful yarns are for everybody. Yes, very much. Okay, bye everybody. I will see you again soon. Happy knitting.